Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. The NFL season is here. The regular season is upon us. We're making our predictions for Thursday Night Football. It's been a very, very long time, but we're finally back. 2 episodes a week, every single week throughout the NFL season. I am hyped. We got a beautiful game played on Thursday, a controversial matchup because one of the teams just got rid of arguably their best player. We're going to talk about that. We had breaking news on Thursday. Man, it would have been good to have a Friday show. But as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Tuesday? Week 1 of the NFL season, days away.
I'm good. Looking forward to the show tonight. Disappointed about the UNC game last night.
Oh, we'll talk about that too. I have a lot to say.
Talk about that, yeah. So, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. All right, let's begin with the first topic of today's show because I'm fascinated by this. And I've mentioned it on the show before, but I think it's finally time to put, sort of pen to paper and show you the numbers, show you the data. Because me just saying it, people don't believe it. Because I've been on this now for several years where it's a simple fact that I don't think Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. Did I think that at one point where he was very close to being a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. But the past few years, it's like, well, hold up. He was great. He was very good. At least that's what it appeared to be. And nowadays, it's like, maybe we need to reevaluate where Russell Wilson is at in his career. So what I find interesting is that the Athletic's Dan Duggan comes out and says, well, maybe Russell Wilson is on a short leash because, as he wrote, quote, Giants brass has told everyone who will listen since the draft that Russell Wilson is the unquestioned starting quarterback, and the plan is for first-round pick Jackson Dart to develop behind the scenes. It sounds awfully familiar to 2019 when the plan was for Eli to be the starter, and then Daniel Jones on the bench developing him. Well, then 4 games in, when I believe, Eli Manning went, I think, 0-4 or 1-3, all of a sudden then we saw Daniel Jones, and that was the story. Eli Manning retired after that point. It's a very similar situation because if we take a look at the Giants' schedule, it is brutal. Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, and Chargers. All right there. This is an 0-4 start if I've ever seen it. The first opportunity you have at a win is Week 5 against the Saints. That's the only shot I have, honestly, in the first 12, 13 weeks. I mean, this schedule is brutal. There is a very high likelihood that if we just go based on what we believe, just off the cuff, just thinking about it, I could genuinely see a maximum of 3 wins for the New York Giants this season. The Saints, maybe the Vikings, and the Raiders. I can't see them beating anybody else. Truly. Now, can there be some upsets? Absolutely. But I think that if you just take a look at the team and how we feel about it, and yes, they had a lot of great players, but they had a tremendous amount of talent defensively last year, and they didn't exactly perform up to the top-tier talent that we expected them, or at least we hope to see glimpses of. Now, their pass rush wasn't too bad. Their pass defense wasn't great. Their run defense wasn't tremendous. And the offense was abysmal. Now, what I find interesting is let's take a look at Russell Wilson, because this is my big thing, right? Russell Wilson's not a Hall of Famer. And the reason why I believe that is because the past few years, there has been one quarterback that has led the league in check down percentage every single one of those last 3 years, and it's Russell Wilson. In fact, he had the lowest positive play performance last season at 19.6%. Out of the 32 projected starters, Russell Wilson was dead last. Oh, but the deep ball. True, he has a tremendous deep ball. He always has. In fact, it was tied in big-time throw percentage. PFF has big-time throw percentage of 6.1%, which was tied for 5th in the NFL, along with Lamar Jackson. However, Lamar Jackson's positive play grade was nearly 12% higher than Russell Wilson's. So, and by the way, those last 5-6 games of the season for Pittsburgh, the offense, led by Russell Wilson, averaged 14 points. Were there any cataclysmic injuries for the offense and the weapons? No. Or did the defense hit a wall because that's what Mike Tomlin relies on, and then all of a sudden the offense couldn't keep up? Well, that's what it seemed to be because their defense averaged 30 points allowed over those last 5-6 games, and Russell Wilson's led offense averaged 14. So I decided to take a look at Russell Wilson and the team passing attempts, passing yards, along with help via running the football and rushing attempts. And I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback have as much help and has been asked to do maybe less. Now, efficiency-wise, you could argue he's been tremendous, but just based on how much weight he's needed to sort of pull behind him, this is Russell Wilson and the team pass attempts, passing yards rank, along with their rushing attempts and rushing yards rank. Do you notice a pattern here? I mean, dead last, 31st, 32nd, 28th, 18th, 16th, 32nd, 23rd, 17th, 31st, 13th, 19th, 14th in pass attempts rank. What about passing yards? We have 6 of them who are in the bottom 10. What about rushing yards? We have 6 that are in the top 3. What about rushing yards rank? We have 6 in the top 5. So Russell Wilson has had a lot of help throughout his career, and it only gets worse because the whole let Russ cook era of, I believe, 2020 and on, he's burnt down the kitchen every single time. He's been on the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Steelers, and now the Giants since 2022, excuse me. So what are we doing here? We could say that Russ is a good enough quarterback. Is he an upgrade over Daniel Jones and that whole mess of Drew Lock and Tommy Cutlets and all that? Sure, absolutely. But I'm going to stay on this hill. I'm going to die on this hill that Russell Wilson, as soon as it was the let Russ cook era, and it was let's put all the weight on him. Let's have him be the one executing the pass and plays and all of that. I think that's sort of where we saw the discrepancies in Russell Wilson's game, because that's when the Seahawks didn't look like really themselves. The rushing game wasn't the same. The offensive line was honestly about the same throughout his career. The offensive line really didn't change over the course of his career. So we could praise him about how well he did in, the top 10 year, where in 2016, his offensive line was ranked 29th. So we could talk about the offensive lines of the let Russ cook era. It's been the same throughout his career. In fact, when he was with the Broncos, remember those 2 horrific years where it didn't seem like the offense was really doing anything besides Russell Wilson's numbers looking pretty good? Those were actually the 2 best years offensive line-wise that Russ has ever had. And last year, we could praise him for moments here with Pittsburgh, but the offensive line during his tenure as starting quarterback was ranked 24th. So we can't really blame the offensive line because it's been the same. In the very highs and in the very lows, there hasn't been much change there. And by the way, what about the defense? Let's take a look at the defense, because that's another part of the, Russ had so much help argument that I have. Over the course of his entire career, and if we really want, I have the numbers here for each individual year. Points allowed, his defenses have averaged the 9th best average in points allowed. 9th best, top 10. What about total defense? The yards given up. That's what total defense is calculated by. They're 12th. So he's had a top 10 defense in points allowed and a top third of the league in total offense allowed, or total defense rather. So Russ has had help every which way you go. And the past 4 or 5 years, honestly, since the let Russ cook era, so about the past 6 years, we've seen a different Russell Wilson than we saw the first 5 when he was winning 10, 12 games, making it to Super Bowls, winning Super Bowls. Well, now we can reflect on that and say, well, it was the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch, and then Russ was just there to facilitate the in-between plays there. Because efficiency-wise, you take a look at the numbers, you're like, not bad. He was pretty good. But compared to the rest of the NFL, it was about middle of the pack. And in most cases, especially early on in his career, when he was making those Super Bowls. In 2013, when he won, the Seahawks allowed him to pass the 31st most times, and he had the 26th most passing yards. The running game was 2nd and 4th. Meanwhile, in 2014, when they went up against the Patriots, they had the number 1 total defense, by the way, 2013 and 2014. They ran it the 2nd most times and had number 1 in rushing yards, and they asked Russ to throw it the least and had the 27th most passing yards. So I really don't think, and we could go throughout, history of the NFL and look at who has had the most help. In my opinion, I don't think there has been many quarterbacks that have needed a top 10 defense, top 3 running game, and then has been relied on the least in the NFL. And we said, Hall of Famer. Because as soon as, like I said, as soon as all the weight was on him, the let Russ cook era and the Mr. Unlimited era, this has been some of the worst years of Russell Wilson's career. So yes, can he throw a deep ball? Sure. So can 47-year-old Tom Brady. We've seen it in YouTube videos. We've seen he still has the accuracy. He still has a lot of the arm strength and a lot of the arm speed. That will really never, leave him. It's about pushing the ball downfield, making those plays when they matter. I don't think Russ has much of it left. Will we see a LeBron-esque factor where he could do it in a game or 2 or 3? Sure. But over the course of the season, I do not think Russell Wilson will be as effective as people are thinking. Is he an upgrade? Sure. But it comes at a time when the Giants are facing arguably their most difficult schedule in a number of years. Add on top of the fact how, since 2017, they've started 0-2 6 times. I think that will repeat itself once again this year, because if we take a look at their schedule again, they go up against the Commanders and the Cowboys. We'll see what the Cowboys look like, but then it's the Chiefs, then the Chargers, and then we may have to see Jackson Dart, because this very well could be an 0-4 schedule. We may see Jackson Dart against the Saints, and then it goes Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, by the way, the top 2 defenses last year. The 49ers, who should be improved, they're healthier. The Bears, who look very much improved. They play the Packers with the newly acquired Micah Parsons. That'll be interesting. The Detroit Lions, who should be good. The New England Patriots, who are very much improved on both sides of the ball. They have a bye week, and then it's Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, and then Cowboys. I see a maximum, if we want to say they get lucky, 4 wins. I think the more realistic number is they go 3-14, and Brian Daboll and Joe Shane will be fired before that even happens. So that's my take on this. Want to give any of your thoughts, Dad, before I jump into our next topic?
I don't disagree. I think Russell Wilson's now a journeyman quarterback. I think that he picked poorly by going to the Giants, who has the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. I think that their record will be, as you say, maybe they beat the Saints in the first part of the year, and that'll be their only win. And after that, the crowd will be and the fans will be clamoring for Jackson Dart to play, and that may be the end of Russell Wilson.
Well, there you go. All right, let's jump into our next topic here, because we did have some crazy news that broke on Thursday, which is Micah Parsons is now a part of the Green Bay Packers. He won in his holding. Jerry Jones let him go. At the tune of 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle and run stopper Kenny Clark in exchange for Micah Parsons. And then the Packers signed him to a 4-year, $188 million deal, or an average of $47 million per year, blowing the next contract out of the way. I think the next highest is $41 million, $40 million. Mike absolutely stomps the crap out of that. So Micah gets a massive amount of money, becomes the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, with I can't believe $47 million for Micah Parsons. But I do want to start with you. Are you surprised that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys would say sayonara to Micah and let him go to a NFC team in the Green Bay Packers?
I am surprised because Jones's mantra has been when there's big contracts that have to be had. You saw that with CeeDee Lamb, and you saw it with Dak Prescott. He plays it out for quite a long period of time. You get close to the beginning of the season, and boom, there it is, a huge contract. It happened twice. And I think he's on his way to doing this with Micah Parsons, and he usually comes through in the end, but Micah Parsons made it much more difficult for him. He made it to a point where, they kind of lost control of it, and there was no way to make a deal. And so I think Jerry Jones said, hey, this is a lot of money. It's going to affect our cap. We're going to have so much money delegated to 3 players that, there's only so much we can offer. And with these huge contracts that we gave to Lamb and Prescott and the impact on the salary cap, let's look around and see what we can get for a trade. And, you look at that trade, Kenny Clark, his best years are behind him, I think. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler for, 3 years. He's been a Pro Bowler, but it's been a few years since then. He's a good run defender, and that's really what the Cowboys need. But he's probably past his peak prime. 2 first-round draft picks look good, particularly when the Cowboys have another 2 already. So they have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years. That looks good. That gives them a lot of flexibility. I think that all said, they traded away one of the NFL's most impactful players and lost their star-making defensive force, and that's big. The trade is more evidence of the failure to address the team's long-standing need to win a Super Bowl. And I think that fans aren't going to like that at all. It weakens an already weak defense despite freeing up some cap space. It leaves a huge void on the edge. Now they don't have an elite edge rusher. Certainly nobody like Micah Parsons. The trade casts a negative light on the team's leadership and management, particularly Jerry Jones, which reinforces the idea that the Cowboys are unable to pay their best players and win a Super Bowl. I think what they got in return leaves me to wonder what their real strategy is. Will they use the 2 first-round picks to build around Dak Prescott, who's going to be 32 years old, or look for a new franchise quarterback? I mean, the next 2 drafts. Actually, the classes look pretty strong. So I'm not sure what their thinking is there. Maybe they're going to trade some of those picks. I don't know. I mean, getting 2 picks from Green Bay when Green Bay now has Micah Parsons and all the other players they have, those picks are probably going to be near the end of the first round, so they're not quite as valuable. I guess the positives: Kenny Clark, good against the run, frees up a lot of salary cap space. Parsons camp, as I mentioned, they in the negotiations they took it to the point of no return, and Jerry Jones said, "I'm not going to go through with this." And I think he was headed towards a deal like he did with Lamb and Prescott, announcing it right at the beginning of the season, but it got so tough that he bailed. He went and looked for a good trade, and he thinks he got one. The 2 first-round picks is good, but they will have to be likely at the end of the first round. Dallas's defense ranked number 1 in EPA per play since 2021 when Parsons was on the field. They lose that for sure. With him off the field, they were dead last. So That doesn't look good. What they lose in pass rush, they gain in run stopping. I'm not so sure. I think they lose more in the pass rush than they gain in the run stop with Kenny Clark. Dallas has 4 first-round picks now over the next 2 drafts, with both classes considered to be strong, as I mentioned. Since 2010, the Cowboys' first-round picks have combined for 40 Pro Bowls, first in the NFL. So they have pretty good luck drafting in the first round, getting a good player. The draft picks, I think, give the Cowboys more flexibility than any other team. It frees up $19 million in cap space, and they have second most right now with $42 million of cap space. So they're in pretty good position to build their team, but you always think of the Cowboys as a win-now team, and that's kind of gone. I think it's going to be a long season for the Cowboys.
I very much agree with that. Here's what I find interesting. Jerry Jones said we're in a better place without him than with him. I thought this whole thing, the past 30 years has been, let's get back to the Super Bowl. We're so close. That's why we spend $35 million on CeeDee Lamb. That's why we gave Dak Prescott $60 million a year and the most guaranteed money ever for a quarterback. That's why we're that close when everybody's like, no, you're not. I think Cowboys fans over the past couple of years, especially at the very end of Mike McCarthy's run, was like, I don't think we're getting to a Super Bowl anytime soon. And now with Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach and Jerry Jones not doing anything in free agency, it's like, and especially, not getting a lot of value out of the draft. Some very good picks, but mostly it's like, well, these guys are all right, not great. I think that people are now more aware that the Cowboys are not that close to a Super Bowl. And with this move, they're now in, okay, how high of a draft pick are we going to get? This now, I believe, just became a top 10 draft pick team. As soon as you trade Micah Parsons away, I don't care what Jerry Jones says. This makes us a better team. No, it doesn't. Because Micah Parsons was your defense. As you put it, they were dead last in EPA per play when Micah was off the field. Just like Trey Hendrickson, it's about, well, what does your defense do maybe when Micah takes a break? And now Micah is basically a one-trick pony where it comes to he's only a pass rusher. He will get after the quarterback, but in run defense and in coverage, that's not really his MO. Well, the Packers have a relatively good defense, and they have a lot of pieces around him, so all they needed was a guy to say, quarterback ball, go. And that's exactly what Micah gives them. They don't need a serious run stopper like the Cowboys did last year when they were ranked 29th against the run. But the defense in its totality last year, it was just abysmal left and right. I mean, they were dead last in red zone percentage. They were 17th in passing defense, 29th in running defense, like I mentioned, for 28th total defense. I mean, this defense was a mess regardless. But I do think that the 2 first-round picks, while yes, it's nice to have 4 first-round picks in 2 seasons, my guess will be, if everything goes as expected, those will be relatively high draft picks. So the value you'll get of a true replacement to Micah won't really be there unless the Cowboys absolutely tank. Which, again, I could see them being a top 10 pick, and then you could focus on your actual draft picks being a replacement for Micah, because I don't think Kenny Clark, he's a different player than Micah, obviously, and he's also a few years older than him. He's 29, heading into 30. He's currently, 29. He turns 30 October 4th. So the Packers, they just became they're definitely a top 10 team. I don't think they're top 5 quite yet. I still would put probably definitely the Ravens, the Eagles, the Chiefs I would put in the top 5 right now. The Buffalo Bills, and then I would include the Denver Broncos. I think just because of the defensive woes, I wouldn't put the Bengals in there, even though their offense is significantly better than some of those teams, like the Denver Broncos. I just think that when it matters, defense will win you some big-time games, which it didn't in the case of the Bengals last year. I do think they're a top 10 team, though, and I think that the Packers right now are a top 10 team, and I think the Cowboys just slid themselves into, well, let's take a look at the draft. Who are we going to get in the top 10? I don't think that there's we put ourselves in a good position to make the playoffs. We'll figure it out. We'll figure things out afterward. No, this is a top 10 draft pick team. I think Jerry Jones, he's doing whatever he wants to do. He's keeping, oh my God, we just did like a Herschel Walker type trade. It's some big news. Oh my God, we traded a tremendous player away. I don't think that when it's all said and done, it's going to matter, because Jerry Jones's big thing is Super Bowl. I want to win another Super Bowl. I want to see us lift the Lombardi again. They just took 45 steps backwards in that journey.
Well, I think they're very close to be considered rebuilding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know how much you could rebuild with a $35 million wide receiver and a $60 million a year quarterback.
Okay, well, those are 2 positions out of 22, right? That starters, right?
Right.
So 2 positions are not going to win it for you. You have to have depth, and you've got to have good starters on both sides of the ball. I don't think the Cowboys have that. I think they're dangerously close to being considered a rebuilding team. I really do.
Well, we get our standings fixed. I think I'm gonna, show you something that might shock a lot of people, especially after my opening rant. But I can't see the Cowboys being even respectable, because even with Dak out there, the Cowboys didn't do much. Even with CD out there, the Cowboys didn't do much last year.
Well, he has to stay healthy. Prescott's got to be healthy the whole year.
I agree.
I mean, when he's healthy, he was a MVP runner-up 2 years ago. And his passing numbers,
so far away.
His passing numbers were out of this world. And but when he got to the playoffs, again, he couldn't do anything. So I don't know. I don't see the Cowboys. When we get to our picks, I don't have the Cowboys ranked very high. Well,
again, and I'll be completely transparent here. I'll rip on Micah for a second. He does, out of 4 playoff games, he has 1 sack, and the sack came against an injured Buccaneers team with a 45-year-old Tom Brady who is terrified at even the sense of pressure.
Well, they were definitely, in the playoffs, they were definitely scheming for Parsons, but if you're an elite player, you got to overcome that. So, and he didn't. So, and I understand if he's going to play on Sunday, he's got to have a shot.
Right.
So he's thinking about whether he's going to do that or not. So,
well, they go up against the Detroit Lions. They're favored at home, obviously, as you think they would be. I think that the Lions are going to have it in for them regardless if Micah plays or not. Because I just think that the Packers, they're a very young offense. And that's why I think that it's okay to spend $47 million a year on Micah Parsons, because you did a very good job at drafting offensive pieces if you're the Green Bay Packers. You have Josh Jacobs, you have Jordan Love. They're paid for, especially Jordan Love, who's making $55 million and needs to prove that he's worth all that money, that they invested wisely in him. And then you have a young offensive line. You have young receivers, young pieces offensively. So that's fine. And then your defense, it has a nice blend. Xavier McKinney's there. He's a relatively young player. He's a veteran, but a young player. Micah's also over there, a tremendous
I think that's a
player.
smart move for Parsons money-wise and team choice-wise. The Packers are an up-and-coming team. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. They have a rising star in Love. They have decent receivers. He makes their defense, one of the better defenses. But is he going to like living in Green Bay compared to Dallas? I'd say the nightlife is not going to be what he's used to there. I'm not sure how he's going to like living in the frozen tundra.
Hey, I would say that, to me, it doesn't. I mean, if Giannis Antetokounmpo can look around and see how sought after he is, yet he stays in Milwaukee. I mean, clearly some people don't care about the nightlife, and I think Micah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't like it in Milwaukee, and he headed to L.A.
Hey, he won a championship, did he not, with them? In 1972, I believe
he did,
it was.
with Oscar Robertson on.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that he did his job, and he didn't make it a big public thing. He said, you know what, just trade me, and then quietly, that's exactly what the Milwaukee Bucks did. So I don't think nightlife. Maybe Micah cares about that. I don't think he's James Harden, but I think that he's going to go out there. He's going to ball. He's going to do Micah Parsons things. He's going to say, oh, quarterback ball, go. I think that's all the Packers will require from him. And as long as he does that, I think Rashawn Gary, he'll step up big in
We'll
these
see
cases.
if he can stay healthy.
Clay
He had
Walker
some
will do
injuries.
well.
He had some injuries last year.
Correct. He missed
and he's
4
injured
games.
right now.
Well, yeah, no, it doesn't seem like a good injury. It's an L4, L5 strain, I think it is. There's some inflammation. He does need a shot. So we'll see how he performs. If he does play in week 1, obviously he hopes to be out there against the Lions, against a top 2 offensive line last year, and probably a top 5 over the past few years.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly how the Lions hold up to a potential Micah Parsons pass rush. So yeah, we'll wait and see. All right, coming up, we make our NFC standings predictions as well as Thursday night football. We're making our picks. The 2025-26 season, at least for us, is underway, and as well as Bill Belichick. What did he do yesterday against a TCU team? We'll talk about that right after this break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of tonight's show, which is our NFC standings predictions. We did this last Tuesday where we did our AFC standings predictions, but now it's time to round it out. The remaining 16 teams, you'll start us off, so you could begin immediately with your NFC East prediction.
Okay, well, to nobody's surprise, I picked the Eagles to win the NFC East. They got one of the best offenses, exceptional run game. Saquon Barkley, the offensive player of the year last year. He became the all-time leading rusher for a single season. They have the best offensive line to go with that, and that helps him get those yards and set those records. And four of the 5 starters on the O-line are coming back. Mekhi Becton left to go to the Chargers. He's replaced by Tyler Steen. They have a potent passing game, with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Jaylen Brown throwing it to them, who won last year's Super Bowl MVP. The defense, I think, is solid, except the secondary, the safeties, Slay and Gardner-Johnson left, and no one really stepped up in the preseason. We're going to talk about the Dallas Eagles game coming up here. That might be the only hope for Dallas, that they can get the passing game going and pick on the secondary, the weaknesses at safety. But they have the fourth hardest schedule in the league, but I think they'll handle that pretty easily, and I'm pretty sure they're going to win the East and easily and go deep into the playoffs. Maybe make it to the Super Bowl again. We'll see. Next, I have the Commanders. We had a lot of fun watching them last year. Everyone did, watching Jaden Daniels. What a talent. And I think the Commanders will be as good as him. He has explosive ability, his arm, 3,568 yards passing, 25 TDs. His legs, 819 yards, 6 TDs. He makes everyone around him better. They got Terry McLaurin. They worked out a deal with him, and they add Deebo Samuels, which Deebo's looking for a rebound here. This is a good team to do it with. The D looks pretty good in training camp. There were some injuries and holdouts on the offense, which may present issues in terms of offensive chemistry early in the season. We'll see. They have the 8th hardest schedule in the league. I have them going to the playoffs. The Cowboys. We just talked a lot about the Cowboys, Micah Parsons, and a little bit about the team. I think it's going to be a hard year for them. 5th hardest schedule. First-year coach in Schottenheimer. He wants to run the ball, but who have they got as running back? It's the guy from the Broncos, Devonta. Got it here somewhere. Anyway, he's nobody big. I don't know how they think they're going to be running the ball. Their best chances with the passing game. They picked up Pickens.
So about Javonte Williams.
Yeah. And they have CD Lamb, Dak Prescott back healthy again. And he needs to stay healthy if they're going to do anything. The defense is a huge concern now, particularly with Micah Parsons gone. Can they stop the run? Will Kenny Clark help them do that? Who came over from the Packers. They can't stop the run, and they face the Eagles, the Commanders twice. Both have good running games, and the Packers and the Lions have great running games. Their best strategy, I think, is to get big leads and try to force the opponent to throw the ball, because if the opponent's running the ball, it's going to be a long day for the Cowboys. So I have them 3rd. And last, and you were talking about Russ and the Giants. I think the Giants are going to be in last place. I agree with you. 3-4 wins maybe this year. Their best strength, I think, is their defensive line with Burns, Thibodeau, Lawrence, and now Abdul Carter. The D will have to be very good at keeping the score down low to have any chance to win. The offense returns 10 of 11 starters, but Andrew Thomas didn't play at all in the preseason, still recovering from his injury. So we talked about Russell Wilson. He's a journeyman quarterback. He's going to start. I didn't get another elite receiver to take pressure off of Neighbors, and I expect Jackson Dart, who looked pretty good in the preseason, to be starting probably by week 8 or 9. Okay, moving on to the NFC North. I have the Packers winning the division this year. They just picked up Micah Parsons. That's a big deal. They've got lots of experience on offense, so Jordan Love and most of his wide receivers, they have good chemistry there. They've got a great head coach in Matt LaFleur. Their defense added I just mentioned Micah Parsons, and signed Nate Hobbs in the secondary. Depth is an issue for the defense. The Packers will be as good as Love and Parsons, I think. But I do have them winning the division and going to the playoffs, principally because the Lions, they lost both of their coordinators. I think that's going to hurt them. I do have them. You're going to put up the next theme there. I do have them making the playoffs. They have the 2nd hardest schedule in the league, so that's going to make it pretty challenging for them. But they've got Gibbs and Montgomery at the running backs. Both had 1,000 yards in each of the last 2 seasons, and each had 10 TDs for each of the last 2 seasons. That's an NFL record. The offensive line's a concern, losing Pro Bowler center Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. Jared Goff needs to have a great year, I think, for the Lions to be a playoff team, and I think he will have a very good year. They lost both the defensive and offensive coordinators, as I mentioned. I think that's why they don't win the division this year. The defense will return a lot of injured players, including Aiden Hutchinson, who's one of the best, and I think that they have a charismatic coach and Dan Gamble, as I call him. So I do think the Lions will be a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. 3rd, I have the Vikings, 5th hardest schedule in the league. 10 of the 22 starters have at least one Pro Bowl, but they are starting J.J. McCarthy, who was essentially a rookie in my book, and didn't have a great preseason, as I've seen and looked at his stats. They have great receivers in Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. The defense is solid, so I think it's really on McCarthy. If he can be a game manager in his first year, not turn the ball over too much, maybe the Vikings do better. But I think it's going to be a tougher season for them, and I don't see them making the playoffs. They're in a very tough division, and I see them as third. The Bears, I'm sorry to everyone that loves the Bears and criticized me last year when I said they would only win 5 games.
Accurately said.
And I was accurate. I have them in last place again this year. I'm sorry. They got the second hardest schedule. The strength is their offensive weapons. They added Loveland and Luther Burden at wide receiver to complement Odunze, Kmet, and DJ Moore. So they've got what looks like very high potential in the receiving game. They also added Olandi Zacharias at receiver. So we'll have to see. The running game must improve, and I don't know if they did a whole lot to do that. They tried to bring in a lot of players at offensive line, but Braxton Jones is still going to be the left tackle. So I don't know whether the O-line will be much better, but it couldn't be much worse. I mean, they gave up 68 sacks last year, and Caleb Williams suffering from those. The defense played okay last year. The new coach is Ben Johnson. I think he should be a major improvement for the Bears and bring out the best in Caleb Williams. But I do still have them last. Moving on to the NFC South. My prediction there is that Tampa Bay will again win the division and make the playoffs. They have the 14th easiest schedule. So, and that's largely every team in this division has an easy schedule because they play each other and they're all poor. So, that helps them, I guess. Maybe they're in the worst division in the NFL. It's between them and the AFC South. I think both those divisions are pretty poor. The offense is strong with Baker Mayfield having a strong season the last 2 years, and Chris Godwin coming back. I think it's going to be big for them. And play alongside Mike Evans, who's always good, and the emergence of Jalen McMillan. But I understand that Godwin and McMillan are going to be out for a while, even to start this season. So, but Baker Mayfield made it happen with just Evans out there. So just getting either of those guys back is going to be helpful for them. Defense has trouble getting off the field on third down. They signed Hassan Reddick and drafted David Walker to address this, but Walker tore his ACL, so he's not even going to play. They got deeper in the secondary to address their weak pass defense. So I think they'll have enough to win the NFC South, which to me is one of the worst divisions. Second, and not making the playoffs, I have the Atlanta Falcons. They have a strong running game with Bijan Robinson, and Tyler Addier is a strong backup. The O-line is one of the best, but will Michael Penix be as good as the Falcons think he is? He only has 3 NFL starts, and accuracy was an issue. I think their defense is solid. They have Kirk Cousins in the wings if Penix doesn't deliver, but I don't see them making the playoffs, even though they have the 13th easiest schedule. Panthers, the offensive line is their biggest strength, and everyone is back, so that's good. The defense improved a little bit last year, still allowed 36 sacks, down from 65 the year before. Their offensive line, so that's improved. I think that bodes well for Bryce Young, who was good late in the season last year when he had better protection, and a stronger running game. The defense is a big question mark, which was terrible last year, and has 6 new starters this year. So that's an unknown right now. They finished last in run defense, last in quarterback pressures, last in total yards allowed, and last in total points allowed. So you can't get much worse than that. They get Pro Bowler Derek Brown back. I think that helps. But the depth is thin. So I don't see them being any better than third in a very poor division, even though they have the 5th easiest schedule. The Saints, I think they're going to be last. The strength is the safeties, Justin Reed and Julian Blackman coming in on free agent contracts. The rookie Jonas Sanker had an impressive preseason, so could be pretty good in the secondary. The biggest concern to me is quarterback, where Spencer Rattler won the job, mainly because Tyler Sloth just he just didn't give Spencer much competition. There's not much depth on the offense beyond Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. They got a rookie head coach in Kellen Moore. The second easiest schedule, but I just don't think they got it. I mean, they played poorly last year. New head coach, quarterback Spencer Rattler didn't really play very well last year. Now he's going to be the starter. And thin on not much depth on the team and very few big-time players. So I just think they're going to be last in a very poor division. Moving on to the NFC West. I got the 49ers rebounding. It was kind of hard for me here between the Rams and the 49ers. I like the Rams a lot, although I think that Matthew Stafford, his 17th season, and now I understand he's got a problem with his back, one of his discs. I have back problems, man. When your disc hurts, wow, it's tough. So I understand he's going to play on Sunday, but that could be an issue throughout the year here. So I have the 49ers winning the division. They've got the easiest schedule in the NFL, amazingly. And they also have the offensive continuity. The projected top 11, the top 11 starters start at least 2 games in each of the last couple of years. And they averaged a total of 11.5 starts last season. When they were 4th in the league in yards per game. So I think they got unlucky last year. They had a bunch of injuries. Brock Purdy didn't play that well. Now he has his new contract. I think he's going to play better. They didn't have their big-time runner,
Christian
McCaffrey. Now he's back. Will he be that good, though? I mean, he's got a lot of miles on him. We'll have to see. They need to stay healthy on offense and improve success rate in the red zone, where they were 57%, 14th in 2024. They got to put more points on the board. They have 22 points a game in 2024. Defense has 3 stars: Bosa, Warren, and Lenore. But the rest of everybody else on the defense is a question mark. With it's probably 6 rookies starting on defense. So the offense is going to have to be very good. Try to keep the defense off the field, actually. The defense finished 29th in 2024, so that's a big question mark. And Robert Saleh is their new DC, so that should be interesting. The Rams, I have the Rams as a playoff team. They have a good defense and a great pass rush. Jared Verse was the Defensive Rookie of the Year last year in 2024. Says he can be much better in 2025 after he watched every play that he played last year. He just thinks a lot of opportunities to improve. So if he can improve over what he did last year, that will be fantastic. The offense is strong with the addition of Devontae Adams to complement Puka Nacua. But Stafford has that aggravated disc that I talked about in his back, which is a question mark, and kept him out of the preseason. He could still play in the open. They say he's going to play, but he's in his 17th season. I like him a lot. I'm glad he got his contract, but can he hold up a whole season now that he's hurt right at the beginning? They've got the 16th easiest schedule. I got him making the playoffs. The Cardinals, I'd like to think the Cardinals are going to be better. I'd like to think that maybe they could make the playoffs, but I don't think so. I mean, I've all my playoff spots are gone now, so I don't see them making it. They have a strong defensive front. They signed Josh Sweat. They have Davin Tomlinson and Callis Campbell, and they drafted edge rusher Jordan Birch. So the defense is probably going to be pretty good. The Murray to Harrison connection is something that's got to improve. They're only 54% completion in 2024, and Murray has to play more consistently than he did last year. Middle of the season, I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but and he made all kinds of mistakes at the end of turning the ball over, and he really lost it. And I felt bad because I did have him ranked in my system my Harvey quarterback ranking system. He was right up there at the beginning of the year, but
He was third,
he did fall apart. The Seahawks, I see them as last, even though they have the 11th easiest. Actually, the Cardinals have the 5th easiest schedule. The Seahawks have the 11th easiest schedule. They have a strong defense, finished 9th in points allowed in 2024, and have all the key players back. So the defense looks pretty good. And the addition of DeMarcus Lawrence and rookie Nick Amaniuwari should help. The lack of consistency on offense is a big concern. They got Clint Kubiak to be their OC. They got Darnold as a new quarterback. Is he really great? We'll have to see. I mean, he has a checkered past. He was very good last year. They got 6 new starters on offense. 2 of the 3 wide receivers are new. I just don't see it all gelling for the Seahawks. I have them last, and those are my picks.
Oh, there we go. Interesting. We do, for once, actually, I'll give you a little, teaser right now. We do have some differences this time, not like
really?
our AFC where we
were
matched
right
on everything.
Yeah.
For our AFC picks. So let's begin with my AFC picks. First off, obviously the NFC East. I got the Philadelphia Eagles, the best team in the NFL, maybe the deepest roster in the NFL. Number 1 defense last year, along with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, along with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the number 1 offensive line on offense. And the Dallas Goedert situation may be interesting. Will they trade him at some point? Who knows? But I do have the Eagles. They're the best team in the NFL, and rightfully so. They will be the number 1 seed in the NFC East, at least, and maybe in the NFC totally. Let's go to number 2. I agree with you, the Washington Commanders. Will Jaden Daniels have a sophomore slump? That's actually what I'm hoping doesn't happen because I have him on my fantasy team. But as we saw with C.J. Stroud, and you and I at one point in Stroud's rookie years, like MVP consideration, he can only grow on this performance, and he hit a wall, a massive wall. He did make the playoffs and win a playoff game, but there was that wall he hit, and he did not look the same, even though with an upgraded offense, some of the pieces did get hurt, but he did have a better offense than he had during his rookie year, and he didn't look that great. So I'm hoping that he does not have a sophomore slump. The defense, it's old. I believe it's actually the Commanders are the oldest roster in the NFL. So what will that do? But, some say old, some say have a lot of experience. So we'll see, but I do think Jaden Daniels is going to get better. He's already at this point in his career. People like to compare him to Lamar Jackson. He's a better passer than Lamar was in year 2 of his career. So in that regard, he is one step beyond him. The offensive line, I think, will be fine. The defense, I think, like people call it old, I'll call it experienced. The running back group gives me a little bit of pause, but I think that you have enough weapons offensively to be a great team. So I have the Commanders at the number 2 spot in the NFC East. The number 3 one, that shocks some people. I know I ripped on them before, but let's take a positive spin on this because I just think one of these teams is going to be god-awful. New York Giants at number 3. I think that if everything goes right, because you look at the schedule and you think, it could go absolutely wrong. It's going to go very wrong. It's the number 1 hardest schedule in the NFL. What if things just go right? What if, let's say, they beat the Cowboys twice? Maybe they somehow split with the Commanders with that incredible pass rush in week 1. Because nobody knows what that pass rush truly looks like in 2025. Can they shock the oldest team in the NFL, the Commanders, in week 1? Maybe. Maybe go with the points. That point spread's coming down. I think it's at 5.5 now. I might jump on that early before we even make our picks for week 1. But maybe we could get shocks here. The Saints, maybe they beat the Patriots. Maybe they beat some of these. Maybe they beat the Vikings and beat the Raiders. Maybe they can get to a shocking 6 wins, and that might be good enough to beat the proverbial last team in the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm trying to be positive with the Giants because I've ripped on them for the last 3 years. Let's turn a positive spin on it this time. And the Cowboys, they're the Dallas Cowboys. They got rid of the best player on their defense. Their defense was already god-awful last year. They extended DaRon Bland. And I think you're looking at this defense, okay, what did they improve at? Okay, run stopping. Did they improve anywhere else defensively? Not really, because they don't have a good pass rush anymore. They don't have a top-tier pass rush anymore because they lost 2 of their best interior defenders. Actually, 2 of their best front linemen, actually, because they lost DeMarcus Lawrence and they also just lost Micah Parsons. Is the offense better? Well, their running game isn't really going to be anything because Javonte Williams was a massive red flag for the Denver Broncos last year. He was a very ineffective runner, bottom 5 actually for the Denver Broncos in effectiveness for them last year. So I don't think this team is going to be much better than it was last year. I do think somehow, though, if we're doing a positive spin on it, the Giants do beat out the Cowboys for the number 3 spot in the NFC East, and the Cowboys are dead last. Let's move on to the NFC North, and I think that it's going to look similar because I have the number 1 team in the Detroit Lions. I understand the turnover for the coaches. That's a major cause for concern. I completely agree with you. But I think Dan Campbell, he's a culture builder. People believe in the culture. When they were the most injured team, they went up against the team that was tied with them to basically be the number 1 seed in the NFC North, and they pulled out against the Vikings late last year and was able to do it now in the playoff game. It was a shock to the world that the Commanders just beat them to a pulp. But I do think that the Lions are going to come out here. They're going to perform very well. I think it's going to be a lot of the same. The 1-2 punch of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Their offense, they seem to get a tremendous brand new receiver who was lighting it up in the preseason. I think Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have a lot of pieces. The number 2 offensive line in the NFL. There's not that much turnover. There is a couple pieces on the offensive line, but I think that, again, building into the culture, believing in it, they'll come out on top of the NFC North. The number 2 team is the Green Bay Packers. I think, well, we'll see. Aiden Hutchinson's healthy again, which obviously helps. The cap situation, you would like to see them make, would have liked to see them make some big-time moves defensively, but I think that they'll do just fine. The Green Bay Packers are the number 2 spot in the NFC North. I do think the Micah Parsons move obviously helps them in the pass rush. Maybe they get dinged a little bit in run defense now that Kenny Clark's not there. But I think that the reason why I have the Lions above them is that the Packers are just so young. I think Jordan Love has these cold stretches where it's just interception and bad play and bad performance and whatnot. I think that we'll see some instances of the Jordan Love where it's like, this guy's getting paid $55 million a year. This guy is one of the most expensive contracts in the NFL right now. Where is he, really living up to his contract? I think we'll see a number of those games this season. So I think, the Packers, I think they may be a 10, 11, maybe even a 12-win team. I think the Lions are going to be right there with them. I think it could be a similar situation like last year where it was the Lions and the Vikings going back and forth, and then the Lions finally at the very end push through. I think it's going to be a similar situation. The number 3 team, in my opinion, the one who's improved maybe the most, is actually the Chicago Bears, the number 3 spot. They don't make the playoffs, but I do think upgrading their interior offensive line with Drew Dahlman, with Joe Thuney, with Jonah Jackson, I think that making those moves is massive for them because they desperately needed to make those moves because their offensive line last year, and especially in the interior of the offensive line, if you want to have a healthy running game and not have DeAndre Swift have his worst career numbers ever, I think that you're going to need to improve, which they did. You added some very nice pieces. Cole Kmet, a very serviceable tight end. You add Colston Loveland. That's a beautiful pickup for them. You obviously have DJ Moore. You let Keenan Allen go, but you kept the offense moving. You kept it, building. And what I saw in the preseason, now it is the preseason, but when I saw Caleb Williams out there orchestrate a beautiful, beautiful drive, just boom, 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 Colston Loveland, Moore, Loveland, all the way down the field, it was a thing of beauty. And so I'm buying in slightly to the Bears. I don't think they go 5-12 like they did last year, as you accurately predicted. I think they're going to be slightly better. This could be a 7, maybe 8-win team. But I do have the Bears, the 3rd spot, which leaves the Vikings because people could be like, what about the talent? What about the defense? Well, they kind of figured out Brian Flores' defense about back end of the season. The offensive line was good, and once Christian Darrisaw got hurt, it was still okay, not great. And we definitely saw some of, it be exposed here and there, especially against decent pass rushers like the Detroit Lions. But I think that at the quarterback situation, it's a similar argument I gave for the Raiders last year. Where people were like, no, this is a playoff team. The Raiders are a playoff team because they have all these, decent talents. I'm like, your quarterback was Gardner Minshew. We don't know what J.J. McCarthy looks like. And in a similar way that I was arguing with Russell Wilson, we haven't seen J.J. McCarthy basically feel the weight of being needed. Because, do I still have the numbers here? And I hope I do. I do. At his time in Michigan, he averaged 155 passing yards a game. He had 49 touchdowns, 11 picks, a completion percentage of 67.9. But he only had to throw the ball 17.8 times a game. So it was a lot of defense, running game, ground and pound, Jim Harbaugh, all of it. And now you're going to a team that needs you to pass. You're in a very good system because you have a lot of pieces. You're going to miss Jordan Addison for a few weeks. You have TJ Hawkinson. You have a healthy offensive line. You do have Justin Jefferson. I mean, it works. You have Brian Flores' defense, which, again, is not terrible. Just teams kind of figured it out, and it didn't have that much, the same effect in this that it had early on in the season. Maybe it's the same thing with Steelers. They hit the wall. But this is going to rely heavily on J.J. McCarthy's ability. Will he live up to where he was drafted and what the expectations of him? Because Sam Darnold just took him to the playoffs. Can J.J. McCarthy do that? We'll wait and see. But I do have them, sadly, last in the NFC North. Now, NFC South, I have the exact same as you, actually. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the number 1 team. They'll continue leading the division and making the playoffs every single year. I think the Buka draft pick was a very good one. Jihad Campbell, I had him drafting linebacker. They didn't get him. I thought they should have because they need some sort of linebacker upgrade. The defense, I think, will be a Todd Bowles defense. It looked good. Run defense was good. Pass defense was okay. I think this is going to rely heavily on what the running game situation is. Is it going to be Rachaad White? Is it going to be Bucky Irving? I mean, everyone's drafting Bucky Irving in fantasy early. Is he now the running back one? Maybe. I think Mike Evans, touchdown machine, going for another 1,000-yard season to keep his streak up. I think that he will obviously get it this year again. I think we'll see Chris Godwin is going to come back. I think this team's going to look good. I think it's going to look very, very good because I think Baker Mayfield, shockingly, we could say that the Bucs have found a franchise quarterback. Baker Mayfield is their franchise quarterback. And it's weird saying that, and we kind of knew that after year 1 with Tampa Bay when he was played incredibly. But now it's kind of like, yeah, Baker Mayfield's Tampa Bay's guy. So I think that he'll keep improving. He'll keep, performing very well. He'll keep making the playoffs. Now it's beyond just making the wild card or making a divisional game and seeing exactly, where the Bucs fall there. But yeah, I do have them making the playoffs, leading the NFC South because they're the second worst division in football, in my opinion. The AFC South is abysmal, but the NFC South is a bad division. The Falcons, number 2. Kyle Pitts, still a bust. Will continue to be a bust. I don't get this hype around them still. Oh, we'll figure him out. They've been trying to figure him out for year after year after year. They can't do it. He's not a good player. So I think at some point you just got to cut loose and just say, you know what, Kyle Pitts, sorry. You're not good. You didn't run a lot of great routes. Now, he had a great rookie year, and after that, he can never live up to it. Drake London will still be Drake London. He'll be very effective offensively, along with Bijan Robinson being a very, very good running back. He was number 2 pick in fantasy for most leagues. The offensive line, though. You lost your top-tier center. What will that look like? The interior of the offensive line, Michael Penix, how is he going to look? Because he didn't look great when he replaced Kirk Cousins. He didn't look, okay, no, this guy's the definite starter. But this is kind of just the way it is. Kirk Cousins sitting on the bench, will they trade him? Who knows? I think Michael Penix will be okay, not great. The defense, though, was dead last in pass rush last year. Will that continue this year? There's a lot of question marks surrounding the Atlanta Falcons head coach. Will he be gone? Who knows? We'll see. I don't have a lot of faith in the Falcons. They're not making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be a great team. I have them at the number 2 spot in the NFC South. Number 3 is the Carolina Panthers. A lot of improvements. Bryce Young is growing. After getting benched last year for Andy Dalton, he came alive last year. I believe against the Eagles, he put up a very, very good game. Like, it went down shockingly to the wire, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they can get something going. Chuba Hubbard, running back, fine. Offensive line is still, who knows? Wide receiver-wise, you have Tet McMillan. We'll see how he's dealing with an injury, 2 hamstring injury. Should be good to go. We'll see if that's a lingering injury. The defense, though, that's another question mark. It's the Carolina Panthers. I don't think they're going to have a 2015 team again, when all of a sudden they go 15-1, or in this case, they may go 16-1 or 15-2. I think they're going to be better. Still not good. They're not a good team. They'll be better. But again, it just like with the Giants, if you're already at rock bottom and you do a little bit better, I don't want to hear what people said with the Giants in 2022. Oh, they're a great team. They're a top 10. No, you went from rock bottom to improving. You're not good. You're not great. You're not Super Bowl. You're not playoff. You're okay. You're getting there. Growing. Young team. They'll improve. Dave Canales, a perfectly fine head coach. I don't think he's on the hot seat. Some people have him on the hot seat. Why? I get it. Recently, Frank Reich didn't even finish out the year. But why? He's a perfectly fine head coach. I mean, he made Bryce Young serviceable. Now, he had to do the hard decision early in the season to bench him, but that turned out to be the right decision. So as long as you keep building this team and David Tepper stops meddling in with the picks in the offseason and whatnot, and let Dave Canales do his job and find these players and coach them up like he did with Baker Mayfield, I think that the Panthers at some point will be more respectable than they are right now, but they're getting there. They're improving. Dead last, New Orleans Saints. They don't have a quarterback. The offensive line's old. They don't have much talent offensively besides Kamara and Olave. Rashid Shaheed's a good deep ball threat. Defensively, they're very old. I don't see this team really being anything besides maybe a 3-4 win team in the NFL, and that's maybe pushing it. That might be pushing it a little bit there. I think that they'd be a brand new head coach, Kellen Moore. We'll see how he does with Spencer Rattler, who they're starting instead of Tyler Shuck. So we'll see exactly what that quarterback situation is. But we saw up until the last preseason game that they were still fighting it off for who's going to be QB1. And as the saying goes, if you have more than one quarterback, you have no quarterback. So we'll see what the Saints look like. I don't expect them to be good whatsoever after Derek Carr's abrupt retirement. So they're going to be a terrible team. Sorry for New Orleans fans. You're going to be bad. You have no quarterback. It's as simple as that. You could have a lot of talent in the Raiders did last year. Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, Jacoby Myers. You had all these nice pieces. But if your quarterback sucks, well, then your offense is going to stall. Just like how the Steelers last 6 games, their defense was still fine. But Russell Wilson in the offense averaged 14 points a game. So what happened? You lost. I think it's going to be similar here. You have no quarterback. You need to be effective. And here's the thing. I have Alvin Kamara on my fantasy team. I hope he performs well. But I'm realistic. You're not going to be a good team. Sorry. NFC West. It's harsh, but it's truth. Sometimes you got to hear that. It's harsh, but true. Next one. San Francisco 49ers. Like you mentioned, easiest schedule in the NFL. Now, you lost Debo. How much of a loss is that? Well, I don't think it's that big of a loss, actually. Ricky Pearsall is coming alive, apparently. Brock Purdy got his $53 million a year contract that people are arguing he should get $60+ million, which was utterly ridiculous. Christian McCaffrey. He's going to be the biggest X factor for this team. Because when they did that Super Bowl push, he was, I would say, the MVP adjacent. Because I think if you really look at it, Trent Williams is the MVP of this team. When he's gone, I believe Brock Purdy has 0 wins, or very, very low. He has a terrible record with Trent Williams out. Christian McCaffrey was right there next to him in MVP, though, who actually, during that 2023 year, had more MVP first-place votes than Brock Purdy did. We've had that argument before. Who's more of the MVP, Purdy or CMC? The voters said it was CMC. So what will he look like? George Kittle, he's top-tier tight end, number 1 tight end, or I would say number 2, actually. I'll give it to Brock Bowers right now. But yeah, George Kittle is still a top 3 tight end in the NFL. The defense lost a lot of key pieces. I think Hufanga was a big loss. I think Dre Greenlaw was a big loss. I think Travarius Ward was a big loss. We'll see what this team looks like without him. But I think with Robert Saleh there, it should be improved. I think that we'll see a very nice defense for the San Francisco 49ers. And it helps when you went from a terrible Brock Purdy performance, then you pay him, and then you get the easiest schedule in the NFL. So we'll see. I do have them winning. Number 2, I agree with you. The Rams are interesting because not only is Matthew Stafford dealing with injury, Havenstein, their left tackle, is also dealing with an injury. So what will this offensive line do opening up in week 1? Well, it'll be interesting because also early in the season, Matt Stafford doesn't perform very well the past few years. So we'll see what Stafford looks like himself. The running game, though, Kyron Williams, not a bad receiver. You got Devontae Adams. You let Cooper Kupp go. You replace it with Devontae Adams. People are saying that's an upgrade. I would actually kind of agree with that. You have Puka Nacua, who's still great. I mean, the offense is going to be, as long as Matt Stafford stays healthy, very good. The defense, Jared Verse, defensive rookie of the year, he'll still be great. I think that the cornerback situation is still an issue. We'll see exactly how they perform this season. I do have them at the number 2 spot in the NFC West, but I think that there's still a lot of question marks, I think. Sean McVay, tremendous coach. Health is going to be the biggest thing for this team because that's what cost them early in the season. If it wasn't for the massive amount of injuries, especially on their offensive line, we could have seen the Rams much higher than they were last year. And if they stay healthy, maybe they can overtake the 49ers and be the number 1 spot. But as it currently stands, I have them at number 2. Different than you, I have the Seahawks at the number 3 spot. I think defensively they're better. I think offensively, people love Sam Darnold. Personally, I don't understand that. I saw him at the end of the Minnesota run last year, and he looked terrible. He went back to seeing ghosts. I don't exactly love this. But Is it an upgrade over Geno Smith? I think that he takes more risks than Geno Smith, which then obviously comes with risk-reward benefit. What version of Sam Darnold? Are we going to see New York Jets and Panthers Sam Darnold, or will we see Vikings Sam Darnold before everything came to a screeching halt and he came apart and went back to that New York Jets Sam Darnold of him seeing ghosts in the playoff game? So we'll see. We'll see. But I do think that they will be better than the Arizona Cardinals, where I understand Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, who I also have on my fantasy team. That could be a great connection. I just don't have a lot of faith in Kyler Murray. The offensive line, I also don't have a lot of faith in. Calais Campbell, he's old. He's a veteran piece. Will he have an impact like we're seeing with these top-tier pass rushers? I personally don't think so. So I think they will be the last team in the NFC West. I think that maybe we may see them push for a new quarterback soon. I think so. Maybe Jonathan Gannon, their head coach, I believe he should be on the hot seat as well because they haven't done anything really at all. So yeah, those are my picks for the NFC. Just another recap. Leading the division and making the playoffs. Lions, 49ers, Bucks, Philly, and then making the playoffs. The rest of the wild card teams are the Packers, the Rams, and the Commanders, which honestly we both have, except you have
same playoff teams. Just the orders are a little different.
Correct. The only team that
the only difference is Detroit and
right,
Packers.
That's the only division and wild card flip that we have.
So there isn't much difference.
No, not at all. All right, let's keep it going. Shows ain't over yet. We're gonna blow by this Thursday night. It's officially here. It's so great to have matchups again and debating them. It'll be Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys headed to Philly to face off against the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Green, Devontae Smith, the number one offensive line, the number one rated defense last year. Oh boy, it's gonna be a crazy matchup. You want to start off or should I for this?
Sure. I'll start.
All right, so my question to you is, would you give Dallas any chance, even if it's a 1% chance, to somehow figure out a way to upset the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles?
I'll give them a 1% chance. The only way they have a chance there is with Dak Prescott throwing the ball on almost every play to try to pick apart the weakness in the secondary of the Eagles, which is their safeties. And we'll find out whether Pickens is really, going to be really good for the Cowboys, and we know CeeDee Lamb is. So I think that's only 1% chance, but I don't think it's going to happen because I have the Eagles beating Dallas 34-20 and easily covering the point spread of -8.5 for the following reasons. Number one, the Eagles are at home. They always play well at home. They have a raucous crowd who really goes crazy, and I think it helps them out a lot. The Eagles won both of last year's games by a combined score of 75-13. I mean, that says a lot right there. The Cowboys players and coaches, I think, are still recovering from the shock of Micah Parsons' trade. I think that's going to linger with them for a while. Cowboys have a rookie head coach in Schottenheimer. Cowboys can't stop the run. They allow 137 yards per game last year. It was 17th in the NFL, while the Eagles excel at the run with 179 yards per game, which was second last year. So that's going to be tough for the Cowboys for sure. Barkley is back after 345 carry, 2,005-yard, 13 TD regular season performance last year, and 442 yards of running yards gained in the playoffs last year. He's fantastic, and I still think he's got a lot of gas in the tank. I think he's going to have a great year, and they will start out very strong against the Cowboys, who can't stop the run. Cowboys running game, led by former Denver Bronco Javonte Williams, is their weakest unit. The Cowboys have to rely on Dak Prescott in the passing game to have a chance, as I mentioned. He's going to be rusty, I think, coming back from missing he missed half the season last year with injuries. They got Lamb and Pickens. As I say, I think they're both strong targets, but they aren't any better than Brown and Smith, I don't think, for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback, coming off a career year, which he won the Super Bowl and was a Super Bowl MVP. The overall depth of the Eagles, I think, is much stronger. They're far better in the trenches. They're better on both sides, far better in the trenches on both sides of the ball, much more talented in the secondary, except maybe the safeties, and they have the best run game in the NFL. If you look at the matchups, most of them favor the Eagles. The total offense, you got to say the Eagles are stronger. Total defense, they're stronger. Offensive line, they have Lane Johnson. I think that puts them ahead of the Cowboys. Quarterback Hurts, I put him ahead of Prescott, particularly given Prescott hasn't played in a long time. He's going to be a little rusty, I think. Wide receiver, I put the Eagles ahead there. They have A.J. Brown. Running back, certainly the Eagles for sure. They got Barkley. Tight end, I give them the Eagles the nod. They've got Dallas Goedert. The edge, I give them the nod. They have Nolan Smith. Defensive tackle, I give them the nod. They have Jalen Carter. Linebacker, I give them the nod. They got Zach Braun. Cornerback, I give them the nod. They have Quentin Mitchell. Eagles win easily. It's going to be a long season for the Cowboys.
And I'll back that up as well. I got the Eagles winning 31-23. I do think it's a little bit closer because, again, week 1, some weird things happen. I do have them. I don't have them. I have the Cowboys covering because I do think at some point this point spread will go down just a touch. I think we'll get that 7.5 number and then it'll cover. But as it stands, no. I do have the Cowboys pulling this out because I do think it is week 1. What will we see? I think that's what will we see? Something always happens that's strange. Like last year, you're like, oh, the defense. What does the defense look like against the Packers? Oh my God. They gave up 29 points and the defense looks bad. But I sat there like, well, okay, what about the Eagles defense? Jalen Hurts had 2 turnovers at the very beginning of the game. And the defense stopped them from scoring touchdowns and had them kick field goals, which ended up being literally the difference in that game. If they go up 14-0 in that game, week 1 in San Paulo, could be very different than what the outcome was, which was an Eagles victory. So that's what they do with defense. Oh, so bad. Oh, my God. Chill. I think Saquon Barkley, will he have the same massive impact as he had last year? Let's be real. I don't think he's going to go back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. In fact,
so what if he only has 1,500 yards? That would still be a fantastic season, right? And they have a great backup running back too this year.
I don't disagree. But
they have a great offensive line.
I agree. But
Jalen Hurts can run the ball.
I agree with all that, 100%. But I do think that I have a funny feeling that Dak Prescott may, week 1, it's only week 1, show glimpses of the MVP, and it will very quickly die. It'll very quickly die.
In the first game of the season, after he hasn't played, he only played half the season last year.
I do. But I'm still saying Eagles win. They score 31 points on this defense. I just think they might, and again, if the point spread comes down, I'll be right in this. 31-23 Eagles win. I think that we'll just see some crazy plays, maybe early. We'll see some rust. I think we will see some rust. We may see some early injuries, unfortunately, just because of the fact that, well, the Eagles, off season was very short compared to the rest of the NFL because they made it to the Super Bowl. They had about a month less in rest because they were playing in the playoff games against the Green Bay Packers, which Kenny Clark had. They had about a middle of the pack in running offense. So we'll see exactly what it looks like bottom middle of the pack. They only had 144 rushing yards, which again is a lot of rushing yards. But in their season, that was actually probably bottom 7 or 8 last year in their entire season. That's just with Kenny Clark. Yeah. What will Kenny Clark do to help out and maybe stop Saquon 1 or 2 more times?
It's one guy.
That needed.
It's one guy. I don't think he's going to make that big difference. I think that this is a game, right? The first game of the season. The guys are going to be, they're going to be in game form. They only have 3 preseason games now. Most of these guys didn't play. They probably only played about 10 snaps so far in the preseason. So they're going to be a little rusty. All the Eagles got to do is just run it down the Cowboys' throats. They have the great running game.
True.
They have 2 good running backs. Jalen Hurts can run the ball. He probably only throw the ball maybe 15, 20 times. And they'll just run it down the Cowboys' throats, and I think they'll be very successful doing it. And with that, they're managing the game. The chances of the turnovers are pretty small. I think the Eagles are going to win pretty easily.
I have them winning as well. It's just I have them maybe covering, and if this point spread falls, I'll be right in the fact that the Eagles will eventually cover. We'll see. Maybe the point spread goes up to 9.5. I'm hoping it gets down to the 7.5 number, goes 1 point down, and then I'll say they cover. Which I will jump on that at that point. Let's finish it out. Let's talk about the Bill Belichick situation because, my God, Bill Belichick, his start as the head coach of the UNC Tar Heels couldn't have probably gone any worse Because after opening in a beautiful drive, a gorgeous drive, 7-0.
The crowd was like in euphoria.
Yeah,
They said,
absolutely.
We're going to the national championship.
Michael
after
Jordan
the first,
was there. Lawrence Taylor was there. Randy Moss.
was there.
Everybody was there. Then they go 41 unanswered points defensively.
Terrible.
They go basically, I think, 6 straight drives without a completion. It was bad. So my question to you is, do you think that this loss, it's only week one, but do you think that this blowout loss to TCU is something or nothing for Bill Belichick?
I think it is something. I think that the optics mean a lot here. I mean, you look at him over on the sideline, he's old. And I'm a big fan of his. I'm old. So, I like to see him win. And he wants his son to succeed him there. I mean, his son looked like a deer in the headlights over there on the sidelines opened up the second half with the first play of the second half. TCU goes 75 yards on a running play for a touchdown. I mean, he looked like he was in shock, and so was Bella, and so was his father. So, I think they're lucky this happened the first game and a non-conference game. TCU's a good team. I mean, they won 6 of their last 7 games last year. They bring back a lot of players. Their quarterback looked like an NFL pro quarterback out there last night. He had 27 of 36, 284 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception, and that interception was like a ball that was tipped way up in the air. So it wasn't his fault. There was hardly any pressure on him, too, and that's one thing I noted about a Bill Belichick's defense. You don't get any pressure on the quarterback. Come on. This is college now. Can't you do that? I was like, here we go again. There's no pressure on the quarterback. I was like, come on, And the running game, they didn't even stop that. I mean, generally, Bill Belichick's really good against the run. This Barnes guy, 11 carries, 113 yards, 10 yards a carry. He had a TD. His backup, seven carries for 61 yards, almost 9 yards a carry. And then the receivers, Dwyer, he had 9 catches for 136 yards, a TD. And Rodgers, 5 for 43 and a TD. I mean, come on, Bill. I expected the game to be, I didn't expect the offense to be great. Generally your offenses haven't been that great in the last few years. You got Freddie Kitchens as your OC, but I did think that the defense would keep him in the game, and it looked like they were going to, and midway through the second quarter, getting near the end of the second quarter, they intercepted that pass that stopped one of TCU's drives. But then Gio Lopez there, he throws a ball right out there for the guy for a pick six. Then I thought, it's going the wrong way. And you look at North Carolina's stats. Why didn't they start Johnson? I mean, he was 9 of 11, 103 yards on a TD when he got in there. Lopez 4 of 10, 69 yards. Interception for a pick six, and he didn't complete a pass for 2 hours out there. I was like, it's amazing. And they couldn't run the ball either. Hood had 10 for 31 yards. Hall had 6 for 22. The receivers, Shippers looks like a pretty good receiver. He had 4 for 84, and Green 3 for 57. But I think, they better get it together here because they're, every team is pumped to play against Bill Belichick. And the TCU coach and one of the players said, we felt disrespected coming into this game. Thought we were going to, it's Bill Belichick. He's going to find a way to beat us. And the first drive, it looked like maybe he was going to. But after that, as you said, 41 unanswered points. You look at NC's schedule. They have Charlotte next week. They won that game last year, 38-20. Then they go to Richmond, who was 8-0 last year, 10-3 overall. UCF, they might win that game. UCF was 2-7 last year, 5-7 in the conference. Then they got to play Clemson. Come on. I mean, they got to look a lot better than they did last night to even be competitive with Clemson, who was 7-1 last year, 10-4 overall, who's a premier team who's out there competing against the likes of Alabama and some of the other really big teams that play for the national championship. They play California, who was terrible last year, 2-6. Virginia, and 6-7 overall. Virginia, they won that game last year, 41-14. So maybe they have a chance there. Syracuse, 5-3 last year, 10-3 in the conference. They're pretty decent. Stanford's terrible, 2-6. last year, 3-9 in the conference. Wake Forest, they won that game 31-24 last year. Duke, they lost 21-20, and NC State, they lost 35-30. So they got a tough schedule, and they looked horrible.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. I think that, and the other thing I'd say, you ask, is this something or nothing? It's the first game of the season, so maybe it will be forgotten. But there's a lot of young kids out there watching this game, thinking, their parents thinking, do we want our son to go play for Bill Belichick? He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Has he totally lost it? And they're thinking about that. He may have a tough time recruiting. So he's got to get it fixed real fast here, if it's fixable.
Right.
And he turned over a lot. I mean, their team was pretty competitive last year, and they turned over all those players. They brought in 70 players. So they might have gotten ahead of themselves a little bit here. College ball's a lot different, and it proved last night that Bill Belichick hasn't figured it out yet.
The question is, will he ever? I think that's the interesting thing, because this seems more like a Cinderella story. He goes back to UNC, and he coaches his team, and he's back. To me, this is a bunch of nonsense. Bill Belichick, the entire part of Belichick's career has this big, beautiful, golden highlight over, these incredible records. But once you smudge it a little bit and say, okay, well, Tom Brady's gone, all of a sudden it's like, oh, fired from Cleveland.
He did make the playoffs in Cleveland.
Fired from Cleveland. Patriots. Fired from Cleveland. Left the Jets. Despised the Jets.
He gave his resignation on the back of a napkin.
That's hilarious. And then you go, since Tom Brady, horrible record, could never figure it out. I think you may have 3 draft picks since 2021 that are still in the Patriots to this day. You could not figure out the offense. You tried and failed and failed and failed and failed. And then your draft picks ended up being Cole Strange in the first round, who people had him as a 5th-round prospect. You drafted kickers and punters early in the draft than what most people do, in like the 5th round. And he ended up being Chad Ryland ended up being the worst kicker in his rookie year, and I believe he was a 4th or a 5th round pick. That was the Bill Belichick beauty. And all of a sudden,
he's still playing in the NFL, by the way.
He is. He plays for, I believe, the
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Yeah. And now you go, and I think he's the most hyped coach this season. UNC was a top-tier hyped coach, hyped team this year. Just because you have Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest head coach of all time. Now, all of a sudden, he goes to North Carolina. He's like, okay, what can he do in college? This is not good.
Oh.
This is the same thing with Russell Wilson. In my opinion, maybe slightly Aaron Rodgers. This maybe takes away some of Bill Belichick's sparkle. Because we look at it, and there is this beautiful, gorgeous placard of Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the 6 Super Bowl rings. That's there. You can never take that away. But then if you just look around, okay, what else does Belichick have?
Well, he has 300 wins in the NFL.
He does.
He does
with what, 230 of them coming with Tom Brady, 250 of them coming with Tom Brady, something like that.
He's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, for sure.
Maybe,
and
probably.
He is, Nate. There's no doubt about it.
I think that Andy Reid, if he wins one more, he has
won
an
11 division titles in a row.
Well, the Chiefs are coming for that. That's the thing. The Chiefs are coming full
steam
ahead.
Even if the Chiefs beat it, there's still the Patriots have 11 division titles in a row.
Right.
I mean, they have some big records there.
Right.
And he was a great coach. The question is he really past his prime, and he really shouldn't be doing
like
this.
That.
He really shouldn't be doing this. He should have stayed in the booth, and he's interesting in the booth.
Yeah.
And as a analyst, so maybe he's probably thinking, should I have done that? Should I have stayed where I was? Now look at the mess I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in a mess.
Yeah.
I got to figure this out. I got my son here. I brought him from Washington.
Yeah.
And he was doing fine out there. And now he's with me, and we just gave up 48 points, the most in my career.
Correct.
Right,
and it's the most in UNC history as well.
The most in UNC history, yeah.
By the way, UNC was 3-0 against TCU in its school's history. This is their first loss ever, as well as the fewest points they've ever scored against TCU.
TCU is a good team, though. I think that they're a good team. They brought back that kid who's a quarterback. He looked great.
Josh
but
Hoover.
He was back there with no pressure. He had very little pressure on him.
That's a Bill Belichick classic. I always remember.
Actually, he missed a lot of open receivers too. There were some open receivers that he could have hit that would have been other additional touchdowns that they missed. So they got lucky on that it wasn't 60-14.
Maybe.
You know?
Well, if you take a look at it, Bill Belichick's defense led touchdown drives of 75, 85, and 76 yards. They got outgained 542 to 222. At one point, TCU nearly had 4 times the yardage of UNC.
There is no excuse for the defense giving up 48 points with the schemes and the coverages and maybe the kids just can't learn all that right off.
Maybe
the
it's
bat.
Belichick.
Here's a very complex defense.
Maybe
Maybe they just can't learn it all in the time that they've had. Maybe they will learn it eventually, and they'll be much better. But they're going up against Clemson, not too far down the road here.
Yeah.
Like 4 more games they're going to be playing against Clemson.
Well,
I just said that could be a disaster. They could give up like 70 points.
Well, I don't think people expected TCU to be a disaster. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the stadium was packed last night. Belichick ran out. Everyone cheered.
Yeah.
They had the big names there. Michael Jordan there.
Yeah.
They had Randy Moss was there. They were all pumped for Belichick to win. And the other team said, we're feeling disrespected here. We're going to ram it right down your throat. And I think a lot of these other teams are going to feel the same way. It'll make it even harder for him. Yeah. So I feel bad. I love Bill Belichick. All that winning, when you had Brady, and he did draft Brady. Let's remember that.
That is the biggest thing, though.
That's his biggest thing. When nobody else wanted him, he did draft Brady, and they had all that success. And I was a fan of theirs. For many years, I'm spoiled by it, and I feel bad that this has happened to him. But he better find a way to fix it, because if he doesn't, he will have let his son down, number one, which would be the worst thing for a dad to do, and and he'll let down the program there. I gotta think he didn't sleep well last night.
Well, speaking about ram it down the throat, TCU had 208 more rushing yards than UNC had. They averaged 7.4 yards per carry.
On one play, a 75-yard run.
Well,
the guy was like, there wasn't anybody
50.
within 15 yards of the guy. He just went right down the sideline. He only carried the ball 11 times. Yeah. He killed him.
Absolutely. UNC, 1.8 yards a carry compared to 7.4 they gave up. Yeah. Belichick has and the sad thing is, in your case, because people are like, will an NFL team buy him out of his contract? That ain't happening.
Not anymore.
That is not happening.
No, that's the other thing. He's stuck there now.
Yeah. No team is going to buy him out.
No one's going to buy him out.
Yeah.
He better, if he's thinking, I'd like to be bought out at some point.
Ain't going to happen.
And, his buyout number goes way down here at the end of the year, I think.
Actually, no, I think post June 1st, it was $1 million. So it's $1 million.
Yeah, so $1 million. So it's not that much money, but nobody's going for that now with the way they played last night. He's got to find a way to get him back into a winning record and be a big winning record if he thinks he's going back to the NFL.
Yeah, which 73 years old.
I don't know where he thinks he's going after last night. I think, going to a bar and maybe drinking heavily because, man, I can't believe he slept very well last night after that.
You know what's crazy? Belichick's quote post-game, I have it here. He talked about tackling. It was much more than tackling. You started a quarterback who went 4
but the
of 10.
fundamentals, he's a fundamentals guy. Their fundamentals were awful last
Well, what
night.
about completions? The starting quarterback threw it 10 times and, like you said, didn't complete a pass for 2 hours. Fundamentals, defense.
He got hurt, and then the other guy came in and was good.
Yeah.
They should have started him. I don't know why they didn't start him.
Maybe he'll be the starting quarterback moving forward.
I think there's a very good chance of that. He was there last year and played well.
Yeah, unbelievable. There's Bill Belichick for you. 2025 so far. He allows, it's crazy. 300 wins, several hundred games in the NFL. Highest points he ever gave up, I believe, was 47. One game in college, 48 points.
The most points ever given up by UNC.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
I got to believe that the leadership there at UNC, the chairman of the board who made this deal happen, he got to be just feeling so awful.
Yeah, I would. All right, that does wrap up today's show. Thank you, Dad, as always. We'll be back Friday. It starts now. The 2 shows a week starts now. We'll be back. We'll be covering the Chiefs-Chargers game on Friday. We'll be covering that same day, obviously. We'll give our predictions then, as well as make the rest of Week 1's predictions last year. We both improved. I did beat you, though. 77% winning percentage straight up last year. It's always great.
Are you doing the hot hand?
Of course, the Harvey hot hand's coming back.
And what was your percentage win on the hot hand
I
last
believe
year?
it was 60.
I didn't get in the 60s.
I
don't think so.
I'll find the math.
I don't think so.
I think it was 62%.
No, I don't think so.
I'll look at it. I'll look at it.
We'll want to know what it is on Friday.
I didn't have a career low. I know that for a fact. I'm still above 50%. I'm beating most of the analysts out there still. So, yeah, that's coming back. We're excited. The Harvey Hour's back. We're making our predictions. We're breaking down Thursday Night Football on Friday's show, so stay tuned for that. But for this one, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's been Stephen Harvey. We're your host of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.